Way back in 2020, which at this point feels like 100 years ago, the Ford Mustang Mach-E first came out. And back then it was a really big deal because it was one of the first fully electric crossovers to hit the market, right after the Tesla Model Y. So back then, this thing was a pioneer and it really set the benchmark that every other EV then had to hit. But 6 years later, I was really curious to find out how this Mach-E holds up. Let's find out together.
For more expert car reviews, don't forget to share our channel and subscribe so you can catch some of this and maybe even a little of that.
So I'm driving the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. So that is the more performance-oriented trim. And first of all, I really like what's going on here. So this one's officially rated to have 450 kilometers of range, but I had this one charged up to about 96% and it was showing me less than 400 kilometers of range. But maybe that's because the person who was driving it before me was kind of a lead foot, and that's fine, so just keep that in mind. This one has been more efficient than what it's rated to get. It's rated to get about 23 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. I've been getting about 18, so it's been relatively efficient. Now this one has 480 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque, which is enormous. Those are huge numbers. And this one has the GT Performance Pack upgrade, which gives you an extra 100 pound-feet of torque for a total of 700. The result is that this thing is quick as hell. It can go from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in about 4 seconds. And that's really quick, but I just want you to keep in mind that the non-GT versions of this Mach-E can do that sprint to 100 kilometers an hour just about a second slower. And so just keep that in mind when you're shopping, is that the upgrade for the GT maybe not super worth it. And also when you think about range and charging, right? 6 years ago, anything over 400 kilometers was considered pretty good. But these days, there are a lot of more affordable EVs out there that offer more than 500. And so I think that's the new norm of what people are expecting. This one can charge at speeds of up to 150 kilowatts, which is great. But again, that's not super competitive these days because there are a lot of EVs that offer a lot faster charging. And because this is the GT version, obviously driving dynamics are really, really important. And when you're on a smooth, winding road, this thing is a blast to drive. First of all, it rips. Like, the acceleration is just so quick and it feels so good. The steering is great and it corners so well. It handles really nicely and stays so nice and flat when you're going through some really twisty turns. It has one pedal driving, which is great, but you can only turn it on and off, and you have to use a menu in the touchscreen to do so. A lot of newer EVs have different levels, so you can kind of adjust the regen braking to how you feel. But because this one, you can only turn it on and off, it's very aggressive, and that makes it very difficult to drive smoothly. Also, I feel like the braking is a little bit inconsistent when it switches between regen and mechanical braking. And when it comes to performance cars, predictable braking is such a huge part of the equation. So I really wish that they could have dialed that in a little bit better. The other thing I gotta mention is how stiff this Mach-E GT is. And of course the payoff in handling is there because it does handle really well. But if you're anywhere that's not a smooth road, it is so stiff. This thing is just bouncing around everywhere. And even if you're just tooting around in the suburbs or driving in the city, it is so stiff that it's borderline uncomfortable. And I just feel like for daily driving, I would really like it to be more balanced so you don't have to compromise so much. And also when it comes to daily livability, the inside isn't so great. So first of all, the outside exterior styling I think is fantastic. This design has held up really well over the past 6 years and it still looks very stylish. The one that I'm driving has the California package on it, which, if we're being honest, I don't think is super worth it because it's just aesthetic upgrades and I'm not really sure it adds enough for me to want to cough up that much more extra money. Usability wise, not super great. I don't love those door handles. You know, it's not immediately obvious to passengers how to use them, so you always have to explain them. And that's for the exterior door handles and the interior ones. I just feel like you don't need to redesign a door handle. Like, that should be so simple and so obvious to use. And then the usability issues really happen throughout the rest of the cabin too. So you know that this Mach-E has a huge tablet-style touchscreen in it and almost no physical buttons. And I think you've been watching the AutoTrader channel long enough to know that we hate when there are no physical buttons because it is so distracting to use while you're driving. And this one especially, you know, it has some shortcuts and they move around based on what you used last, which theoretically sounds pretty good, but then it's very annoying when things pop up where you didn't last see them. So I think Ford could have done a lot better making the interior more user-friendly for people who are new to EVs, but drivers in general. I think there has to be a lot more thought put into how easy it is to use these touchscreens while you're on the go. All those complaints said, I do really like how it looks in here. I think the style is really good, it's built well, and I like the different materials and textures they use. Like, these blue seats are so beautiful, and I love the contrast stitching. It's because those are small details, but they add up to give the cabin so much life. One unique feature that the Mach-E offers is that it has Blue Cruise, which is one of the industry's only truly hands-free adaptive cruise control systems. And I'm not on a highway right now, so I can't show you how it works, but it is really good at communicating with the driver about what's happening, and it works very smoothly. And you can buy it outright or you can subscribe to it. So I love that it's being offered. I'm also really grateful that features like a heat pump come standard now, so that means in the winter you're not going to lose as much range to the climate control as you would, so that's really good news. But even in this like top trim model, there's no ventilated seats, right? And so I think there are some features missing, like even a head-up display, that I would really love to see at this price point. And so I think in this segment of EVs, there's a lot of more affordable EVs that simply offer you more tech and more features. And I think in this economy, where everything is so expensive and people are really looking for value, the GT's value proposition really doesn't hold up that well. So this GT Mach-E starts at about $65,000, and that's before destinations and all that stuff. Once you add in all the options that this comes with and destination, you're pushing $80K, and that's a lot of money. And just keep in mind that the non-GT model starts at $47,500, which means it's eligible for government incentives. So you're getting extra value in that sense. And then you have to consider that the regular models don't really compromise that much on driving dynamics. Like, sure, this is the GT one, so it's the performance-oriented one, but the regular one drives just as nicely, has more range, is more comfortable, and is more affordable. So I just think that the GT's value proposition is very difficult to justify. To recap, I love the Ford Mustang Mach-E's stylish look, decent range, and back road driving dynamics. I don't love that it's not super user-friendly, that the GT model doesn't have a lot of value, or that it's too stiff for a daily driver. The Ford Mustang Mach-E used to set the standard, but now that there are so many other EVs out there that offer more range, more value, and might be more technologically advanced, the Mach-E just seems to be falling behind a little bit. And it's by no means a bad vehicle. I still think it will satisfy the needs of a lot of drivers, but if you're considering this GT model, you've got to make sure to check out the non-GT models in the lineup too, and also test drive different EVs to see what you might be missing out on.